Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a world that's both ancient and futuristic. A digital void, a kind of vast, glitching desert where totally new questions demand entirely new answers. So, we're going to follow two builders, Salem and Josses, as they try to construct a bridge over this chasm. But they're not using steel and concrete. Nope, they're using the powerful, time-tested tools of human reason. You see, this void, it really represents the challenges we're all facing, right? New tech, new social dilemmas, ethical questions that have no direct precedent. So it really makes you wonder, how do you even start to build a bridge from what you know to what you completely don't? Let's see how our builders get started. Okay, so Salem and Josses begin this huge task by laying the foundation. And their toolkit, you could almost call it their intellectual arsenal, it has 4 core instruments of reasoning. These are the 4 pillars that are going to support their entire bridge across the unknown. The first tool they pull out, and it's the most fundamental one, is qiyas, or analogy. The logic here is actually pretty simple and elegant. You find a new problem that, at its core, looks like an old one. You pinpoint that shared effective cause, and then you apply the same logic. In this slide right here makes that abstract idea super practical. So let's take slander as the original case. The new case, digital harassment, something the old rulebooks couldn't possibly have imagined. But the shared cause, the illa, is crystal clear. It's all about delivering harm. And because that core reason is identical, the ruling just extends right over. And just like that, analogy builds the very first span of the bridge. But this brings us to a really crucial problem. And that leads us to our next tool. What happens when the logic is perfect, right? You followed all the steps, but the result just feels wrong. When it actually creates an injustice? This is exactly where istissan, or equity, comes in. You should think of it as a vital course correction. It lets our builders say, hang on a minute, and set aside a really obvious, rigid analogy if it's leading to harm. Instead, they can choose a deeper, more subtle one that really gets back to the main goals of justice and fairness. But, some parts of this digital void are just completely uncharted territory. We're talking about chasms so wide that there isn't even an existing case to start an analogy from. So what tool do the builders use then? Well, that's when they turn to maslaha, or public interest. Now, this is a seriously powerful tool. It lets them construct a ruling pretty much from scratch. But there's a big condition. It has to create a genuine, widespread benefit, and it absolutely cannot contradict any of the system's foundational principles. But look, this isn't a blank check to just make up rules. The benefit has to meet some pretty strict criteria. It's got to be necessary, not just a nice to have. It has to be general, for the public good. And, this is key, it can't conflict with any established principles. All of this ensures the bridge stays stable and actually does its job. All right, on to our final tool. Finally, every great bridge has to have safety rails, right? That's the job of Sad al-Dara'i, or blocking the means. This tool is all about foresight. It's about looking at the future consequences of an action. And if something that's technically allowed is clearly a gateway to certain harm down the road, you block it. It's basically preventative engineering. So, with those 4 pillars firmly in place, now we can zoom out and see the master blueprint that's been guiding this whole construction. And what we see isn't just a random set of tools, it's an entire philosophy, a really unique way of looking at the world. This architectural plan is called Barzakian logic, and honestly, it's fascinating. Unlike the binary either-or thinking of a lot of formal logic, it doesn't see 2 opposing ideas as a contradiction that needs to be solved. Instead, it sees them as 2 poles that interact to create a richer third reality, the barzakh, which is like an isthmus or a bridge between them. This table really breaks down the different approaches to the big questions. You see, while some Western philosophical models ground consciousness only in what's material, or kind of vaguely gesture towards a spiritual pole without naming it, the Barzakh model explicitly integrates both. It gives you a named spiritual component, the fuad, and that becomes the source for meaning, for purpose, and even for consciousness after physical death. And there it is. The bridge is complete, spanning the void. But it's so much more than just a way to answer questions. It's a model for integrating all sorts of knowledge, the empirical, the rational, the spiritual, into one unified whole consciousness. So what's the big takeaway here? This entire complex system of bridge building actually boils down to a really clear formula. To lay down a solid piece of the bridge, to make a sound judgment, the right cause and the right conditions have to be there, and you have to make sure that absolutely no impediments are blocking the way. And Salem, one of our master builders, just puts it perfectly. He says the goal isn't just to have these tools sitting in a toolbox. It's about having them all work together, integrating and nourishing each other, because that's how you build not just a bridge, but a complete self. And his partner, Josis, gives us the powerful flip side of that idea. A fragmented self, a torn self, can only see a fragmented world. The state of our own inner bridge directly determines how we perceive absolutely everything and everyone around us. So the real takeaway is this. These ancient tools of deduction, this incredible integrative logic, they offer a powerful blueprint for navigating our own modern voids. They are tools for building our own bridges from the known to the unknown. The only question left is the one we leave with you. What bridges will you build?